Common client misconceptions when shopping for benefits with your insurance broker. So, when people are shopping for benefits, there's a few misconceptions they have. Now, these topics are more like some people are bending the rules, some people are trying to protect their data, some people just think they know better, right? We're going to dive in. So, first one, waiting on renewals. So, anytime you are within the 90-day window, whether you're shopping for a PEO or looking for a new carrier, if you do it the 9 months before, right, you're a month 6, let's say, of the plan, and you want to shop for a renewal, you're getting rates based off of what that carrier knows about you today. In today's world, they're benchmarking some of the risk against your current plan. Because why? They want to earn your business. Now, when the renewal comes out, everybody knows 60 days before, most states, you have to the carrier has to give out the renewal so that there's plenty of enough time to evaluate and look at other things. But some clients will look at it month 6. We go ahead and get the rates. They have a great situation. Hey, we're saving 15%. We got a new carrier. This looks amazing. You're going to save $100,000. Let's do this. I want to wait and see what our renewal comes back as. Then we'll say yes to this. Well, reality is they didn't have that information before. And once you're in that 90-day window, 90 days before your plan renews, if you decide to hold off on that quote you got in month 6, when that new information comes out, that carrier is going to ask for the renewal. Why? Well, because they want to see what percentage increase you had, because what they benchmarked when they originally did it was based off of what they knew. They know the carrier, especially in a small group or in a PEO, knows something that they don't know. So if the renewal is above 10%, then you pretty much know that that carrier's new quote is going to be repriced and it's likely going to reflect 10%. Sometimes I've seen cases where they really want the business. Maybe they increase it by 5% or 6% in that scenario. But either way, it's going up. So some of our clients thinking that they're going to hold on to their renewal and see where it's at. I mean, it's only putting you at a disadvantage because your pricing is just simply going to go up. Second thing, quoting with different brokers, getting the same carriers, right? So like if you have broker A, B, and C, you're all in the small group, you're 50 lives in California or say 40 in Florida, and you want to quote UHC, going to 3 different brokers and then going to and those 3 brokers going to UHC, you're not getting different rates. You're not with the same information. Now, if you look at it, it seems like it makes sense, but let's take a step back. UHC in that scenario, or a carrier, has a CRM, which has a CPQ, which is a database where when we as brokers submit for a quote, we have to put your EIN, your employee's information. We have to put their dates of birth, their first name, last name, match it up to like the current medical invoices. There's a lot of data and information that you're giving. You think that carrier doesn't know that it's the same person over and over getting the same quotes? They're not going to start releasing different numbers to different people. It's just not really how it works. What ends up happening is those people, those brokers, sometimes end up giving different pieces of information because they want to get you the lowest rate. But then at the end of the day, you can run the risk of running into a problem where if somebody withholds information as a broker, they get you a better rate today. Well, then that doesn't mean, when you read all the fine print, if they didn't represent the information accurately, and when they onboard you, they do have the right to re-rate your group within a certain period of time, or they'll make it up on the renewal. Either way, like shopping 3 different brokers to the same carriers that you're going with, it doesn't really help anybody. In fact, it slows your process up. It usually frustrates the brokers you're working with, and then starts to put you at the bottom of the pile as far as like getting things done, because hey, ultimately they know that you're shopping multiple brokers for the same thing, and it kind of becomes a mess. So it doesn't really help you. It actually probably sets you back. The next thing is withholding information. Oh my gosh, there's some people who, bless their hearts, they want to do it for security reasons, right? But if you're going to work with a broker, a trusted advisor, and they ask you for employee census data like date of birth, first name, last name, the dependents, meaning like, the owner's kids or that, it's not that they're trying to get a bunch of information. It's because that's what the carriers demand. Why? Because they want to look at the risk and see, how many kids are going to be on the plan. What do we think a kid of this demographic in this area at this age, what services would they have? So now they're trying to figure out how do they price your group. So withholding information only does two things. One, slows down the process because usually the carriers won't release the rates. And let's just say the broker pushes it through with limited information. Well, then you run the risk of seeing numbers, going through a process, making a decision, and then getting re-rated once you actually have to give that info when those employees actually enroll and sign up. Because when they enroll and sign up, they're going to ask the employees directly, hey, who's on the plan? What are you guys going to elect? Where do you live? All that. And if that information doesn't match up, then we'll you're going to get repriced. So, you do run that risk. Let's see. Loyalty matters in small group. So I get a lot of California groups that are, age banded, meaning whatever your age is, it's kind of like that. That's pretty much where your rate is. And they believe that, hey, we've been with this carrier for a long time, or we've been with this broker for a long time. So, we want to make sure we're keeping our good rates because we got that loyalty. Well, here's why that doesn't end up mattering. The reason why it doesn't matter is if your risk changes, then it's just the risk is the risk. What are we assessing? It's what's the likelihood and what do we estimate your group is going to cost us for these services, right? That is not a feeling. That's not a relationship. That doesn't have anything to do with anything. Insurance companies are looking at what is the risk and what should we charge to hedge our bet against the risk and spread that risk so that there's not one catastrophic event. That's all that matters. Think about it this way, like to take it out of context a little bit, in California this year, because of all the wildfires, a bunch of carriers that are pulling out. Nobody can get home insurance at a reasonable rate or shop it around. Why? Because the carriers pulled out. Well, what about all those customers that had all that loyalty? It doesn't really matter because it doesn't make sense for the insurers to insure the insured. Right. So in those situations, it is what it is. Believe me, there's no warm and fuzzy feeling that you're going to get from having loyalties. That's why it's important to shop out different carriers each year and see if there's other options if you're not happy or satisfied with your current options. Next thing, bending the rules. Oh my gosh, I absolutely. If your broker lets you do this, then shame on them. But we have people who ask, oh man, in this state, say New York, for instance, I know our headquarters is there, but is there any way we can say one of our employees lives in Florida? Can we just get our rates out of Florida? That's our HQ. No, absolutely not. Let me tell you why. Because if you want to go ahead and put in a Section 125 plan, or you want to put anything in, the carrier wants to know with your EIN number, right? Your EIN number, where is your headquartered state? What does the IRS have on file? Your federal EIN number is tied to the IRS. That's where you do your taxes and all that. So then when you pay your premiums for the year, right, you have 1095s, 1095Cs, you have Section 125. It allows it to be a pre-tax benefit, meaning if your company earns say $1 million, you spend $500K on the premium, you're not paying taxes, employer taxes on that benefit, right? It's pre-tax. It comes off the top. So in that scenario, right, you try to skirt out because you want to go to a different state. Well, what happens when the company or when the insurance carrier wants to recertify and check your DE9 or your DE9C or your 941 or any of the payroll tax filings when they want to just audit your account? Oh, all of a sudden they see that you've been lying to them. Well, if you're working, say, with a big carrier, national carrier, and they're in all the states, well, then they're going to want to say, hey, we're going to go back and figure out how do we reassess the charges that we had because this wasn't the rate you were supposed to have. You withheld information. Then they can reprice, right? You have to read these contracts and you have to make sure you do the right thing, right? This is just not an area to play around with. These insurance carriers, they're largest companies in the world. They've been around for a long time, and that's because they're an important part of making sure we're we're protecting our people and their health. Those are the main things that we see. People trying to wait for renewals after they've gotten a quote 90 days before. I want to wait for my renewal, see if I can, how it benchmarks. It's only going up, and then they're going to reprice. Quoting with different brokers to the same carriers. That's just more of a, if anything, more of a headache for the carriers, and also you're probably going to make some people mad along the way. And then withholding information from the either the broker or the carrier in an attempt to either protect data or do certain things. There's required documents. They are what they are. If you don't trust the person you're working with to ask for all the information, that's just like baseline what you actually need, and you don't want to give it, then you need to reconsider who you're working with. Work with someone you trust. Loyalty matters in small groups in states. I mean, if it's age banded, the rates are the rates. It's just the rates are the rates. And then bending the rules. You don't want to switch headquarters states or try to say, hey, do something cute and funny with the paperwork to avoid paying what you should be paying, because at the end of the day, if you get caught, it ends up being a big problem. It just becomes a big problem. Don't recommend doing it. It's not okay to do. And those are the main misconceptions we typically see as brokers.